Hello, beautiful teachers, and welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher Chat. This is your weekly show on YouTube where we talk about all things private music studios and music teaching. Today I'm going to be sharing with you about my silent film piano festival that I held over the weekend. I gave you the scoop before it happened last week, and we're going to be continuing sharing how the day went and the planning and how it all panned out. So I'm excited to share some details of that with you. Before we get there, a couple of bits of news. So since you're watching on YouTube, you probably enjoy things on YouTube. So I wanted to let you know about a plan that I have. A bit of a tentative plan, but it is a plan nonetheless. It's something I'm excited about. I hope you'll be excited about. So some of you will know that I do quite a bit of sewing. So on YouTube, when I'm just like in my free time, I tend to watch a lot of sewing YouTube content, like people sharing about their makes and patterns they're using, etc. This is going somewhere connected to music teaching, I promise. One of the things they do in the sewing community and in some other communities on YouTube is something called Vlogmas. Have you ever heard this term? Because I'm not sure how widespread it is outside of sewing. It's not something I met until I got it into this whole world of sewing YouTube. So let me know if Vlogmas sounds familiar to you. But it's something that I'm planning to try a little bit this year. So the idea is that during December, in the lead up to the holiday season, to when many of us are off, you share videos every day or almost every day that are in more of a vlogging style, meaning it's more just like, here's what's going on with me today, might be a bit random, and that's what I'm planning to try and do. I'm not going to guarantee that I'll actually do it every day because, we have to take days off and I don't want to get in the way of like family events and be distracted by them, from them, or anything like that. But I thought it would be fun to try. So I hope you'll be excited about it. I hope you'll come along with me on the journey. No pressure to watch all the videos or any of them if it's like, it's different to this show and a lot of the other YouTube stuff I do, but it's more of a like personal, casual format, and we're going to try it out. So yeah, my aim is to come on YouTube most days in December and let you know what I'm getting up to. There'll probably be some Christmassy type things. So yeah, like putting up decorations or whatever I'm doing, or little crafts. I tend to do a bit of crafting in December, maybe preparing for gifts, maybe some trips to, the shopping areas around here into the city centre in Dublin, stuff like that. So you get a little bit of a day in the life kind of thing, but with little snippets throughout December. And of course, some teaching stuff in there too, because I'll be teaching the whole time. So I'll share about if I'm lesson planning or if I'm doing this and that and anything that pops up along the way. That's the idea. Now, rest assured, fans of the Advent calendar, the send-off that we do, that we've done for the last 3 years, we're still doing it. So this isn't replacing that. We decided to do both. So we're still going to do the page on our site where you open the doors and there's little surprises and goodies behind each day. So don't worry, that's not going anywhere, but this is just an extra little thing I want to do to, share some holiday fun before the new year. Okay, that's my main news this week that I wanted to fill you in on, so let's dive right in and talk about the Silent Film Piano Festival. Okay, lovely teachers, so I'm going to give you the briefest of rundowns of kind of what we covered last week in terms of the lead up to the festival, and then I'll tell you about how it went. So in case you don't want to watch last week's video, you can go back and check it at any stage. But I got this idea for the Silent Film Piano Festival from a company run by teachers from the Utah Music Teachers Association called Silent Film Celebration. I met them at the MTNA conference in Reno last March and saw their presentation and took their idea and put my own spin on it, did it my own way, using some of their resources and also inventing some stuff of my own along the way. And I started to put the wheels in motion. I opened this up to teachers from other studios. So we had students of the 4 teachers here, and then 3 external teachers who I knew. So it was, I wasn't advertising it too broadly for this first run, but we had a few students from other teachers as well, other schools. And yeah, I won't go into the whole organization process and everything that was involved, but we did it in a venue called the Stella, which is a cinema really close to me, actually, like half an hour walk. But yeah, a few minutes in the car. And it's this gorgeous cinema that's been redone in sort of the opulence of the 1920s, because that's when it originally opened. So these people bought it, it closed down, it's in disrepair, etc. And people bought it, took it over, redid it in this beautiful style, and we managed to rent it for our event. So it was absolutely stunning. And we loved it. It went really, really well. So I hope this isn't all going to sound like bragging or whatever, but I did put a lot of work into the planning and it did pay off really well. So we'll pick up where we left off, which was last week on the show. We were talking about all the preparation I'd done. So what was left to do was go over my packing list many more times, make sure I had a full list of everything I needed to bring with me, because I needed to go there on the Sunday morning. We got into the Stella at 9, and the doors opened to students at 10. Now that was my choice. We would have been allowed in earlier if I'd asked for it, but I just thought, look, an hour is going to be enough time to set up, and I don't want to be just sitting around twiddling our thumbs for too long. So it was a tight enough timeline that we needed to be organised before we went there. So yes, I set up my list. So I'll share my list here. I have it written out. So we had our 2 digital pianos with us and their stands, which we disassembled. So I got my husband to, with me, disassemble them, because I've always put them together before. So they're not complicated, but I just wanted him to be familiar. So we took them apart together and packed them into the car, and then it was his job to put them back together when we got to the cinema. We have a small car, as is normal in Ireland, so if you had, a big truck or whatever, maybe you would just be able to take them as is, or just take off the keyboard part, the piano part, and keep the stand together, and that would save you some time. But there was no way that was going to happen. We have a little Yaris hybrid, so not happening. We took it all apart, put them in the car. Then we had obviously the screwdrivers to put them back together. We had our 2 duet benches, which are pretty substantial. I have these big duet benches here, and I always like to take them because they're just so much nicer than standard benches. So we do have like single benches and stuff, but some people were playing duets with their teachers. And yeah, these benches are just lovely. So we brought those with us. They're they're wider than a normal duet bench size, so that they're, big. Then we had clip-on lamps. So they're little IKEA ones. I can grab one. Sorry, the plug got stuck, but I wanted to show you what I mean. These are just little clip-on guys, okay? And I just clipped them onto the music stands. They're from IKEA. As far as I remember, they were like €15, maybe less. But we have 2 of them. We brought those with us, and we also brought 2 more lamps because I wasn't convinced that was going to be enough light. Obviously, it's a cinema, so it's dark, okay? So I brought 2 extra lamps. It turned out that was enough, so we didn't need the extra lamps. That was fine. An extension cord. I have like a builder's style one that's like really long, so I brought that just in case. This list, by the way, is largely applicable to recitals and stuff. If you're, anything you might not have thought of, always bring extension cords with me anywhere I go, just in case, for like cameras and stuff, even if I don't have digital pianos with me. Then we had our cables to connect the pianos to the cinema sound system. Those are like the audio jack cables, the ones we needed. We had tested that beforehand. I brought my iPad with me just in case someone forgot their sheet music, and most things I could have like I had online or could have bought last minute online if we were really in a pinch. I didn't think that was going to be necessary, but I brought it. It wasn't necessary. I didn't touch it for the whole show, which is a good thing. Okay, then I had the programs of, what students were playing and what they were playing. And I had the tickets and the stickers organised in envelopes. So I had an envelope for each student with their name on the front. I printed them out on labels, stuck them on the envelope. Then inside was a sticker with the student's name and scene number, which they were going to stick here. That was just like an address label type sticker. So that was so that we could organise them in the lineup. And so they had to put that on as their little badge when they arrived. And then they had a ticket that said their seat numbers for them and anyone else in their party. So that was all organised in envelopes, and I'd made sure to put them in alphabetical order and put them in a box that our people doing check-in could use and not get them mixed up. I also had masking tape with me. I always have tape with me at any recital. Anyone else for that? I just feel you always have to have some kind of spare paper. I had spare labels with me, a marker, a pen, and masking tape. Those are just like, no matter what's happening, I'm bringing those things. Okay, and then I had my camera for videoing the event and the tripod for that, which is actually the one I'm using right now for this, and microphone. So I just brought the I have the Rode Go 2 wireless microphone. It's just what I have anyway for other reasons. But it's nice and simple and discreet and just plugs into my camera, and then there's the actual microphones, and I literally just put them on the like little poof thing that was behind the piano. So I didn't have any kind of fancy microphone setup, but it worked fine. And then I had the second camera. I have another mirrorless camera, anyway, with interchangeable lens. I kind of have a pair of Sony cameras, and the other one was brought with us as well. That was for taking photos. So that, again, is my husband's job. So he was put the pianos together and take photos. Those were his two big jobs, and he did great. That's pretty much my list. Okay, so yes, I feel the same way. I hope everyone else didn't get bored by my list, but it's good to get the details, right? That's what you're here for. So I have a few photos to kind of show to you so you can get a sense of what it was like on the day. So let me see. I'll show you here first. So this is not that one, sorry. Oh, there. So this is two of the teachers who work here. They were doing the check-in. So my husband took a photo of them doing the check-in, which is great. So see, one of them has a clipboard that has the full list of all the students and their seats in case anyone lost their ticket, and also just so they could find their name really easily. And then behind them on our right hand side, as we're looking at it, you'll see a little yellow box. That's where the envelopes are with the students' stickers and their tickets inside. So yeah, that was sort of the check-in at the front of the cinema, and I told them, like, make sure nobody comes in without checking in with you. It's kind of handy that like the entrance is kind of a small corridor, like it's not the full width at the front. So people were kind of funneled in, and it was clear that they were supposed to check in. If it had been a more open room, I feel we would have needed a sign for the check-in desk. But with the setup the way it was, I knew it was going to work for them to just like both stand at the door, a little bit in front of the doors, so that people would naturally form a queue and just check in there. So that's the check-in area. Then we had, let me see. So I'll show you the audience area as they started to fill up. This is when people dripped in. I was surprised. Don't know why I was surprised, because it always happens every recital. Lots of people were earlier. They came earlier than 10. So I said doors open at 10. Film starts at 10:30. People came at like 9:40, 9:45. Luckily we were ready. But yeah, they're like, it wasn't just one family, it was quite a few. So the audience started filling up, and I told them, just relax. Even if you're playing the first film, just relax for now. Don't come up here and line up because you're going to be standing there for 45 minutes. So that won't help. That'll lead to a lot of wriggles, right? Then I'll show you our piano setup. So this is the area with the two pianos. So you can kind of see in the top right hand corner there, you can see the screen is right there. So I ended up angling them. My original plan was for both of them to be straight, but I found it was better if I angled them like that. It's easier to kind of get around. The only downside of having such lovely big benches is they do sometimes get in the way, but they're also more comfortable to sit on. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? But that was our piano setup, and as you can see, there's the two little IKEA clip-on lights right there as well. I was surprised no one accidentally hit them and had them fall off the stand. Like, I was expecting someone to hit it with their sheet music by mistake and like knock it a bit, but no one did, which was amazing because they're not that sturdy. They're decent, but they're not like that clamped on. Let me know if you have any questions as we go through. Let me see. Okay, this is the front area where people are queuing up to get their treats, etc. You can see at the back there's a bit of a queue. That's from the front door to the kind of check-in area, and then they were queuing to get treats and stuff like that before the film. As part of the expense of the venue, as part of the venue hire, they had like a flat fee and then a minimum spend. And I was expecting that we would end up covering some of the minimum spend, like that people wouldn't actually reach that, and that we would have to cover the difference then, right? Similar to hiring like a nightclub for a birthday party, something like that. You'd only have a minimum spend. But we actually very nearly reached it, and the Stella were like, that's fine. That's close enough. So that was really good because it was a little bit less expense for us, so that was great. Okay, and then from there they queued up to enter the screen. Stella had their own staff at the start of the auditorium there, showing people to their seats. It's quite a dark cinema. It's quite hard to see the seating numbers and letters, like more than most other theatres, I think. So it was great to have their staff who actually know where everything is and could help us. And they managed all of that, so that was awesome. Just show you the view from the balcony as well. So there is a balcony level in the Stella Cinema, and we did have some people up there. So we had filled the ground floor and then a couple of rows of the balcony. And that's also where we put surprise extras. So people who hadn't booked the tickets in advance, but like showed up with an extra person, we had the extra seats in the balcony for them. Okay, and then finishing off with the photos and the kind of setup here. So this is myself and Laura. I just think it's a cute photo. So we're both looking up at the screen there, so you can see where we're sitting. I brought two little stools with me, and we basically sat there so that we were right there if anyone needed help or if we needed to jump in with something, fix something, anything like that. So that was a handy spot for us. And then, it's just a different view of that. So you can see we've got our two little stools, and that's the camera in the right corner there. As you're looking at it, that's the video being taken. Of course, the video wasn't going to be like amazingly clear because it's dark, but I think it turned out well. I finished the editing for that today. Okay, and then we have the students getting ready. So this is the first film, and they just lined up along the wall like this. So they were in order of their numbers. Laura, the other teacher that works here, who was helping me on the piano side of things, she checked their numbers, and then I double checked them that they were all there and all in order. The labels worked exactly as I planned. It's great. I'm so glad I thought of that idea, because I don't know how I would have kept everyone in order, considering they're not all even our students, so we don't even know every kid's name. So having the label there was really handy, and it worked perfectly. And I was able to just run up and say like 1, 2, 3, like that. And then the students 1 and 2, in this case these two, sat down behind the pianos before we actually started. So the line actually started at 3. 1 and 2 were already sitting at the piano. And then, number 1 played their piece. They got up and got out of the way, and number 3 sat down there while 2 was playing their piece. And then they got up and number 3 was playing, and number 4 sat at that piano. Hope that makes sense. So you're alternating back and forth between the pianos. That's how it works to keep it flowing. And it worked really, really well. I think those are all the photos I had to show you. Just checking. Yeah. So that gives you a bit of a sense of what the venue was like and how the setup kind of worked. Susan asked, how long did it take the kids to learn the music? Also, how did you split the cost of the silent film? I remember it was rather pricey. Yes, it's a pricey thing. It depends how you run your studio, is what I'll say in terms of general advice. Colourful Keys is an all-inclusive studio. So when I do recitals, when I do pretty much anything except students entering exams, which is really completely external to us, we cover that. That's part of our business expenses. So this is another event that's part of our business expenses. The external students who participated paid an entry fee. I believe it was pretty affordable. It was basically the cost of 2 regular cinema tickets, to give you some context. And then our students and other students who wanted to bring more than 1 guest paid a ticket fee for that. They bought tickets. So we did offset some of the cost that way, but we definitely footed a large amount of the bill just as a business expense. Okay, so how long did it take the kids to learn the music? That varies so much. It depends what the music was. So this kind of combines with Debbie, your question about music for beginners. I didn't restrict this based on level. So I had students who are not long into lessons at all, and students who are 6 or 7 or 8 years into lessons as well. But the students had to be at least age 7. And if I had a 7-year-old in my studio who I thought, really this is going to be tough for them, like they're on the less mature side or they've just started lessons and I think they're a little bit too lost for this, then I just had a quiet word with the parents and I said, not this time, like wait another year. But in general, it was for ages 7 and up. And so there's a lot of beginners in that mix. We had some arrangements which are from Silent Film Celebration. They have arranged pieces that are from a book. It's original 1920s incidental music. It's a book that was put together and for professionals who did this job. And they rearranged it. I believe the arranger's name is Emily Marsden. She rearranged it into different levels. Now, they're still not super easy. So they have one that I think they call elementary, but it's not beginner friendly. It's still, a little bit awkward in places and they wouldn't have learned that fast. So we generally had students who were like intermediate-ish and up learn some of this music that's like original and authentic to the role of being an incidental musician in a cinema, because I love that opportunity. And then we had a variety of other music as well for students who that didn't fit with them. So I had asked some independent composers that we could use their music. So I had Samantha Coates' pieces, Jennifer Eklund, one of the external teachers had asked Chrissy Ricker, so we had some of her music as well, June Armstrong, and Brock Chart. Those were the sort of composers that I managed to find something for everyone. So how long did it take them to learn their music? I mean, it depends which piece we're talking about and which student we're talking about. But generally, I had students had to commit that they were definitely doing this by the end of September. So that's not a long time frame, okay? We're talking October and like a week of November. So it had to be at an accessible level if it wasn't something that they had already started on or knew before. So the incidental music, the intermediate students, they had been given that before the summer to start on. Some of them worked on it a lot over the summer. Some didn't. That's what we expected. But they had September to continue working on that. And then other students, they just had a few weeks. Okay, hope that answers the questions. Okay, so I wanted to share a few details about what I might do differently if we do this again. So overall, it was a huge success. Like, it went really, really well. For the most part, everything went amazingly smoothly. I made a couple of small mistakes, but that's kind of understandable. I'll explain those in a second. But yeah, so I would make those changes, but I have heard from a lot of people so far that they would love to do it again. So more than any other event I've done, there's been a lot of feedback like, do this every year or do this once more or whatever. So we may do it again next year. I'm not going to commit entirely yet, but we may do it again next year. And we may continue expanding this and maybe having more external students and therefore multiple films. For this one, we had 2 short films. We could do it, like, when I was planning all this out, I had different options in mind that we could have a few different sessions, 2 films, and then those students leave, and then another 2 films as a separate session. So we could expand it and go that way. I do think it's worth doing again. But yeah, we have to look at it and make sure we have the budget for it. So if and when I do this again, some changes. First of all, the toughest part of this really was the seating. The rest of the organisation mostly I enjoyed and I felt like I had it very in hand. Sorting out the seats and allocating them was a bit of a pain because I had ticket sales dripping in up until the morning of. So I could close that, but then I feel like we'd be in more trouble. So I would love to have an actual seating system like you would have when you book a ticket in a cinema or for an airplane or whatever. So I might look into that. But then the other part of me is like, well, actually, I could do it the same way again and I could make it more efficient. Because basically, when a student is in the first film, they're not in their seat for the first film. And then when a student is in the second film, they're not in their seat for the second film. So we actually could share those seats, which would make it more efficient. Yeah. It would make it more of a headache for me, which is why I didn't do it this time. But maybe that is a solution to make it more efficient as well. It probably is the right thing to do. In terms of the budget and the efficiency and also just making the audience always look full. Not that it looked empty, but there's going to be empty spots because the students are all getting ready to play and they stay standing up for the whole film. So yeah, that's something I might think more about. One of the choices I dilly-dallied on was whether I should bring folding chairs and have the students line up sitting or standing without chairs. And I decided on standing, and I think that was the right call. They didn't fidget too much, and I know with folding chairs, kids tend to fall off them or do silly things, you know what I mean? So I think it was actually less distracting with them standing, and it's only a 20-minute film, so they're able to stand for half an hour, it's fine. So that was the right choice, I think. One of the unexpected things was that the video was actually a completely different version of the video than what we had practiced with. So it was the same film. The first film we were using was The Boat, a Buster Keaton film from 1921. And because we're in Ireland and because copyright laws here are different, this would be different for any of you in the US. This is definitely different for you. Those films are out of copyright, so you could use the publicly available film that's on YouTube and Vimeo. But we couldn't screen that because it's not out of copyright here. So we had to license it and pay a licensing fee. And therefore the cinema got the files, which are DC something files, a file format I've never used. They got those directly from the licensor, which is great. It made it totally hands off for me. But then they played the film and it was remastered, so it looked better than the files that we see online, which are kind of, yeah, it had been fixed up and remastered and stuff, which was awesome. But the first film, The Boat, was a full, I think about 9 minutes longer than our version that we had been watching. So different students' scenes, a few of the scenes had extra bits in them, especially the first one. So I was honestly so proud because the student playing for the first scene in the first film, he kept it going the entire scene, Like, he kind of looked at me with a side eye at one point, like, really, I'm still playing? Because I was standing right there in case anyone needed me. And I kind of nodded like, yep, keep going. Because he was doing the right thing. He fills in all of that time, but I'd say it was at least double the length of the scene that he had prepared for. Because there was this whole extra chunk in it. And then that happened to a lesser degree in other scenes where there was a bit extra. And so they ran out of their piece. So, yes, we planned the music to go with the scene. For the most part, I chose it. Just in our studio, I just chose it. Some students, we discussed it together, but mostly I just assigned something that made sense and I knew they could play. So, yeah. I don't know what I would do about that. I think I would probably at least ask, because we'd be using different films next time, at least ask the licensing company to tell me the length of the film so that I know whether it's going to be a good chunk longer or not. The second film we used was only a tiny bit. So it was only like 2 scenes in that were affected at all. So that was unexpected, but they dealt with it very well. Now, there was a bit of... So I think one thing that I will do differently next year, I feel like I did a very good job of training my own students with some things like, if the student before you stops too early, start playing anyway, even though it's not supposed to be your scene, start playing early. If they don't stop playing, cut in and interrupt them when it's the start of your scene. Like, we're all basing this on what the scene looks like. So I think my own students all did that, but I don't think I did a good enough job of communicating that to other teachers so that they could train their students enough. So if we do it again next year or following year or whatever, I will probably put together a video and some examples of drills you can do in lessons so that every student gets the same level of preparation in terms of adapting your scene, like having a part that you repeat if you've got extra time, or having an ending that you can put in early if you need to finish and your piece isn't finished, etc. So I'll just have more information for the other teachers, I think, next time. The students paid, Susan. I said that a minute ago. But yeah, the students paid a fee to participate in the event. So each parent set up the form. Like, I had a form on my website that the parents filled in. And their teacher obviously got a free seat as part of that. Okay, and then, yeah, I think those are the main things I would change. I told you I had one snafu, which was with a couple of the seats. So I told you that this was the hardest part for me to organise, was the seat allocation. Yep, maybe I'm still not being clear about this, so I'll just go back to it. There were 3 external teachers participating. All their students paid the student participation fee. So each student from their studio who's going to be part of it filled in the online form, which was on my site, which had the fee attached. Hopefully that's clear. Yeah, the 2 little mistakes I made. So were with the seating. There was one parent who came up to me and said they had booked 4 tickets and I'd only allocated them 3. So that was just a very basic error in me copying it from like the system where the extra tickets were being bought and copying the number across and putting it as 1 instead of 2. So they didn't get too upset about it, thankfully. Obviously we had the spare seating upstairs, but yeah, thankfully they didn't mind too much. They understood. Things happen. The other seating mistake I made, in a way thankfully, was for my own mother. So I had reserved, or I thought I had reserved, 2 seats for my mum and her friend that were coming, and I double booked them. Now, as I say, thankfully, obviously my mum was going to understand and just sit in the balcony level, but I thought I had saved it, and then I looked at the sheet and there were literally the same number, like the same seat, right beside each other in the rows. I don't know how I missed that, but anyway. Yes, that was the only real mistake I made, I think, which, as with all the things I was keeping track of, wasn't too bad, I think. Okay, the other thing I think I might do differently that is starting to make me excited about maybe doing this again next year is I would love to have the opening and the closing of the film be duets, or ideally, 2 pianos, 8 hands. Wouldn't that be cool? That's just something I've been thinking about and going, oh, I wonder, could we manage that? Like having some ensemble pieces at the open and the close. I think it would have an even bigger impact and be even more fun. It worked out great the way it was with solo students and like teacher-student duets, but yeah, I think it could be fun with an ensemble, either for the open or for the close of each film, or maybe both, or just for some of them. Not sure. Okay, I think I have answered all the questions as I've been going, so let me know if you've any others. Overall, it was fantastic. It went really well. Our venue were so lovely to work with. Like, honestly, they have been so fantastic. Obviously, you're an international audience, so it's not particularly useful to recommend the Stella to you. But if you're ever in Dublin, go to the Stella because they were fantastic to work with. And yeah, I think it was just such a good experience for the students. I think learning to adapt what you're playing to a length of time and to like changing circumstances, like the film wasn't the exact length it was supposed to be, is such great practice for real world music. Like if you actually play gigs or whatever you're doing, you need to be adaptable. You need to be able to change things and make things work based on the situation. It's also great just for students who do feel really under the spotlight when they're up at the front of a concert to just enjoy just playing and everyone is watching a film. Yeah, they're still listening to you and there's that pressure, but there's not the like all eyes are on you feeling that you get at a concert. So it's a very different style of playing. And for me, honestly, it was more relaxing. I had put in like the stress of this event for me was all before it, really, because I put in a lot of organizational time so that on the day it wasn't very stressful. Like, I didn't feel huge butterflies going into it. I was excited to see everyone and see them perform. I wanted to obviously play my best for the duets I was playing with students, but that was it. I got to just really enjoy it. Like I was standing on hand just in case anything happened, but really nothing did. Nothing major came up. It all went pretty smoothly. Parents and students seemed to be delighted and everyone played excellently. Like obviously there's always going to be a few hiccups in people's playing, but overall they kept it going. No one had any major wobbles. It just went great. So, yes, I highly encourage you to give this a go if you're thinking, hey, I might like to do this. I'd also suggest you go check out Joy Moran's blog, Colour in My Piano. Just had to make sure I got the right colour in My Piano, because I think she just blogged about her silent film events she's been doing, and hers are completely different in style to mine, and she did over several weekends, several different smaller events. So, I mean, check that out too if you want more inspiration in this line. I know Joy has also published some music that is a good fit for this kind of event, so definitely if we do it again, I'll be checking that out too. And yeah, just a great experience, and I think in a way more enjoyable for parents. I think that's really what I was getting from their feedback was I got to sit and have fun with my kids playing. A concert, I'm proud of, like, not that they said it in these words, but this is the feeling I was getting. Like a concert, I'm proud of them for getting up there, enjoy the music fine, but I'm not like sitting there laughing at a comedy film and they're part of that. It was a completely different experience. So yes, definitely to be repeated at some point. I'm just not going to commit to the date yet. Thank you all so much for sticking with me. If you have any follow-up questions about this and you're thinking about putting on one yourself, please reach out. I'm happy to help and share my experience and any insights I can give. It doesn't have to be big like this. It could just be in your living room with a projector or on your TV. You know, it could be a piano party just for your kids. It doesn't have to be this mega thing in a cinema. That's just what I chose to do with this idea. But I hope you enjoyed hearing about it. And I will see you back here next week. Bye, everyone.